I messed up tonight. I lost another fight. I still mess up, but I'll just start again. I keep falling down. I keep on hitting the ground. I always get enough to see what's next. Birds don't just fly, they fall down and get up. Nobody learns without getting it wrong. I won't give up, no I won't give in till I reach the end and then I'll start again. No I won't leave, I wanna try everything, I wanna try even though I could fail.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again to Zootopia Minute, the podcast where we look at an individual minute of the Disney film Zootopia and we analyze it. Today's minute is minute 10. So exciting. We're finally on the double digits. We've been waiting for so long. I know you have too. So this minute begins as the train is pulling away from the station. We get a closer look at that awesome population sign. And then it ends right as the train, which has entered Zootopia, transitions into the Arctic snowy zone of the city.
That is correct.
Yes, my name is Simul.
And I'm Choco, and we are both running for president of Cascadia in California.
Respectively.
And once we are a united front, we will join our two respective countries into one giant Pacific Republic and take over the world.
I think I'll get resistance from my people on that. There's like a trope that Washingtonians really dislike Californians.
Oh yeah, we don't want your coffee. You guys keep it.
Hey, we have the best coffee.
We have Hollywood. I think we're good.
Who cares? Whatever. All right. So, this is an interesting minute because Judy gets on the train. She's clearly very excited. She takes out what appears to be an actual, just a straight up iPod. Like, it doesn't look like they even tried to make it.
It looks like the iPod Shuffle, the later version of the Shuffle.
I think it's the Nano, isn't it?
Yeah, it might be the Nano.
The version of the Nano they made that was like a watch. And then I think they immediately went back to the big one because everyone kind of thought that was dumb. Because at that time, Apple basically made 5 different sizes of iPod Touch at that point. There was the iPod Nano, the regular iPod Touch, the iPad, and the iPad Mini. So that's 4 actually, but still.
Well, what's also cool about this is going back to how all these minutes are perfectly like in sync with each other. This one actually starts the intro of the main theme song, which you can listen to at the beginning of each of our podcasts by all of us at once. But this one has the instrumental right before the chorus starts.
It does.
Which is
yeah, so
cool.
we finally get to hear that song that everyone talks about. The Shakira song. Her hips don't lie.
And
That's
we
what
see
I've
a
heard.
glimpse of Shakira, I believe. We see her gazelle character on one of the screens.
Her Zoosona.
Zoosona.
I wonder, do you think they asked her like what animal she wanted to be? Or did they just like kind of go for whatever?
Let's Google that.
Should we look that up?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious about that.
Okay, I do know that. So actually, this is the first episode where I actually have the the concept book for Zootopia out in front of me, which I really should have brought up for the previous episodes because if you guys didn't know, the elementary school is actually called Woodlands Elementary School. But based on what I know about the Shakira thing before actually looking this up, I'm not sure whether she requested being gazelle, but all I know is that her initial design, the gazelle, was much more slim. And she requested the gazelle have a bit of
larger hips.
Well, I think she wanted it to be a bit bigger, so it wouldn't. It's something about body image. She's like
body positivity.
Yeah, body positivity. She says she wanted her gazelle to be a little bit more plump, and I'm not sure if they moved completely in that direction, but I guess they gave her big hips because Shakira's hips don't lie.
It's funny. I don't think I'd heard anything about Shakira. Like, I didn't know anything about Shakira other than that song, Hips Don't Lie, until Zootopia. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I guess she still exists.
What does she do? I'm bad. I don't,
music.
yeah. I like classical music and stuff, so I'm not sure. I don't know too much about her. So if you guys know what she does, tweet us, because I think we're both clueless with pop culture music. So
pop. It's all pop. So something else that you pointed out a little bit before we started recording is that train actually has ears.
Yes, it has. It looks like it's actually we were talking about grizzly bears for California in the last episode, but for this one it kind of looks like a teddy bear, the little bear ears.
And when you said that,
Yes.
Before I saw them in it, I thought, oh, is it bunny ears? But no, it's just sort of generic mammal ears.
Which, now I'm wondering, did we see bears in Zootopia? We have to look out for that, yeah.
There absolutely must be. There's no way there's not.
Okay,
I'm gonna point it. I'll try to remember to point it out the first time we see a bear.
We will look out for bear in future episodes, but no spoilers.
So, one thing that I noticed, Judy is in the front of the train under the big glass dome, which is where I would choose to sit because I'm like a little kid and I like to have awesome views. And there's Seattle has a monorail, and whenever I can, I try to get the front seat because it is a big glass dome type thing like that. So that's cool. What's weird though is I would have expected so many other people to go for that spot too. Like, why is Judy the only one?
Actually, I think we might see this in later minutes, but in the concept art book, they actually show the design of the train, and that glass dome is specifically for giraffes and elephants to have space for their heads. So
so she's just intruding. She's
maybe
just being rude.
Because they have an image of the train design, and the dome is specifically made so that giraffes could actually sit there without bumping their heads on stuff.
This is a safe space for giraffes only. Get out of here.
Oh my god, we're gonna get so much hate mail. Okay. Well, we actually see our first glimpse of our first biome, which is known as Sahara Square. Yes. And what's kind of interesting about this is, so actually, if you read some of the concepts of how they designed it, it was initially patterned off of Mexico. So Sahara Square was supposed to have a lot of Mexican features. In fact, you see this in some of the buildings. They actually have some adobe-like structures, and they're very, very similar to the Pueblo Indians who would build similar type of structures.
Yep.
But later on, they decided to move towards a more...
Middle Eastern.
Yeah,
sort of.
Specifically Dubai, which is famous for its giant buildings, the
and
fantastic
its debt.
futuristic...
It's crippling debt.
Well, it has fantastic glass buildings, and we kind of see the Dubai style of architecture with the giant palm tree.
Yeah. Actually, what's great is before we even get there, we have this really nice establishing shot, basically having this big aerial view of the whole city. And we see that it's on what looks like a lake, like it's an island in the middle of a lake or a bay or something. Which is just super cool and is how I would design a cool city when I was in middle school, because I used to doodle maps and stuff for like fictional worlds I would make up.
Oh, you too.
Yeah, so that's totally like a trope I would see like myself
this is
using.
the perfect city for Bane to take over.
Oh, yes.
Because all he would have to do is just collapse the bridges, and then he takes over. And he runs into Zootopia Stadium and says, "Citizens of Zootopia, take back your city."
I am Zootopia's reckoning.
There you go.
Bow before me. Were you able to get a sense of the scale of the city when we had the aerial shot?
Actually, before we even had that establishing shot, I think the scale already made itself evident when she was pulling out of the bunny burrows on the train, and they went through a bunch of pine trees, and all of a sudden they turn around the mountain bend, and you could see just a glimpse of the tall towers in the background. That is our first view of Zootopia, and that is her first view. Possibly that's her first view of Zootopia. And I think that was a very impressive shot, and I thought that was actually more, it resonated more with me than the establishing shot itself, actually.
Yeah, because it sort of shows her emotion. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that she's so excited to be there. I wonder if she'd ever visited it earlier in her life, just visiting the city.
Yeah, not sure. But maybe they had field trips. I don't know.
Yeah, but she was clearly, her eyes light up. She's so excited to see this big city.
I think we were too. Now, we were at the beginning, we were talking about how Zootopia opened on a kind of a cold open. Just the title Zootopia just kind of popped out. But as she comes into the city, there's a sign that says, "Welcome to Zootopia." And it looks kind of like a movie opening logo. And I thought that would have been a perfect shot to add the titles, Zootopia the movie or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it's still a cool shot, especially that Zootopia sign being large and impressive, welcoming everyone to the city.
Yeah. I mean, back on the subject of scale, I was never quite, like, from that big aerial shot, or actually a better example is what you pointed out, how you can see the tall buildings over that mountain. Mm-hmm. That would lead me to believe, that and the aerial shot kind of leads me to believe that either the city's not actually all that big, or their towers are just ridiculously tall. Because, if you compare it to like a regular kind of downtown in any given major American city, I mean, there's some variation there, but usually the downtown takes up, I don't know what fraction it would be. But
well, what's interesting is we have to consider whether the city was artificially made or whether it was a naturally growing city. So most of the major cities we have in the world now, is looking at like the United States, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, these were all based around trading routes and ports. These were specifically first port cities. And the downtowns, economic districts, and eventually all the suburbs grew around these places of economic importance. So we're wondering if Zootopia had a very, very similar structure, or it would be like a more artificial creation like Washington, D.C., where they wanted to find a neutral
very planned
plot of land. Because
by Masons, Freemasons,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, Washington was Freemason, but we're not going to get into the Alex Jones conspiracies yet. But specifically, Washington, D.C. was chosen because it was a neutral place that wasn't in the north, it wasn't south. It was kind of right on the Mason-Dixon line. It wasn't in any specific state, even though it's technically in Maryland. Maryland gave that part away.
And Virginia was supposed to give some, but then, like, I think D.C. gave the land back to Virginia.
It gave it back, so it's now the city of Alexandria. But Washington was specifically made so it didn't favor any state or any region. So I'm wondering if that was like that for Zootopia, where there's a bunch of different species, and they didn't want to favor any one area, so they purposely made the city to represent all species.
Yeah, I could see it being a very planned city. I mean, obviously, like, there's different districts which are sort of modeled after different biomes, which is one of the coolest things about... Yeah. This is one of my favorite scenes in the movie because it establishes the mechanics of the city. It does a lot of world building, right? That's one of my favorite things about any sort of narrative, anything. And actually, I had been wondering, like, now I want to know how they maintain all these different climates. But actually, as we're exiting the desert district and entering into the Arctic right when our minute ends, we can see that the wall separating those two, there's actually these huge heaters, like these things blasting out hot air into the desert zone.
Actually, that was something I wanted to bring up for another minute, but since you brought it up, they actually say there is a function for all these different biomes being so close to where they are. So that wall you were talking about with the heater that heats up the Savannah district,
the opposite side is
it's snow.
Yeah, and it's sucking in the heat, so that would make sense that the refrigerant side would...
The heater also has a melting function where it melts the snow, and the melted snow provides water to the rainforest district, which we'll see in a different minute.
Oh, that's so cool.
So it's
I hadn't thought about that.
It's actually all these different structures are providing dual function. So you have snow cooling down the area, but also melts and becomes water for the rainforest district. And the rainforest district is kind of between the... we see the wall dividing the Arctic and the Savannah, but the rainforest district is also bordering these two cities because the heat from the rainforest district combined with the frigid air also makes the rainforest district more humid.
Right, because the water is going to condense the water that's naturally in the air there. That makes a lot of sense. See, I love that they put thought into that and they worked it out that way. That's great.
And actually go the extra mile for that. Savannah Square is actually described as Palm Springs meets Dubai, and they actually were planning it to kind of look like a Las Vegas strip club. In fact, that large Palm Street structure we see over there, the Palm Street is actually called the Palm Hotel and Casino. So it's supposed to be a giant casino, kind of similar to...
When you said that, I assume you meant like a club on the Las Vegas Strip, but you said Las Vegas Strip Club.
Oh, and it
kind of takes on a new meaning.
But going back to the Dubai comparisons, you were talking about how you're wondering how they built it on an island and kind of expanded outwards. Dubai was founded in a very, very similar way, where if you actually look at Dubai, the reason why they have all these very, very tall towers and stuff, like Zootopia, is because there's really not much room for expanding laterally, so they have to expand upwards, which is probably why we see Zootopia having very, very tall towers, because it's such a small island they had to build on. As big as the island is, it's still eventually going to run out of space, especially with all these different biomes, so they're going to have to eventually build up.
Yeah. People say that that's kind of the better way to build cities anyway, is to build up rather than out, just because sprawl means everything's further away. Traffic will be worse because people have to travel further. But yeah, I mean, part of why this scene is so interesting is you just get to see a lot of the city and how it works. That thing with the snow melting is really cool. I hadn't thought about that, but I was thinking about how it makes sense for the desert to be right next to the snow area, the Arctic area, and to have that wall with the heaters on them. Because obviously the heat there, you could say that it's taking heat out of the snow area and pumping it into the desert area. Everyone knows that's like how a refrigerator works. If you feel the area behind your refrigerator at home, there's a bunch of hot air coming off of it because it's having to actually radiate out the thermal energy that it's extracting from inside the fridge.
Yep, that's kind of how they plan it, which is really, really cool. So hopefully once we'll talk a little bit more about the Arctic district when we see it in the next minute.
Yes.
But for now, what did you like about the Savannah Square area, aside from the stuff we mentioned?
They also, aside from showing you, you know, the physical locations, they also take a moment to sort of introduce you to some of the animals that live in Zootopia. So we saw a herd of dromedaries. Were they dromedaries? How many humps do they have? Anyway, they were jogging.
Yeah.
I thought that was a fun
I was
little
wondering if, at first I was like, are they going to work? But it's like, no, they have this weird gallop. So I'm guessing they were jogging. It looked like they were wearing like tracksuits or something.
Yeah, I think it was just recreation. So that was cool.
And then what else did I remember seeing? Yeah, it does seem very, very sandy too. So I guess they have to import all that sand and...
Right. Maybe they have a big quarry somewhere. I want to know, like, because how close do you think, we asked this question before, but
Sure.
how far outside of town do you think Bunnyborough is? Because in the film, it kind of shows it like you round a corner and the city's right there. But I feel like that was probably a more impressionist way of conveying, like,
It
the
could have been
distance
cut
is
for
actually much
time.
greater.
Like,
Yeah.
so, I don't know. Okay, let me think about San Francisco, for example, which is a very, very similar city where it's a peninsula, so it's almost an island, and you take the BART to go there. So, when I was growing up, I actually didn't live in San Francisco proper. We lived in the suburbs around San Francisco, and a lot of people would go to work in San Francisco, even if they lived like 2 hours away. So, it's possible that Bunny Burrows could kind of be maybe around the same distance if you have a train connecting.
That is so funny. Because I was actually looking at maps of the Bay Area today and looking at all the different bridges across the Bay and thinking how interesting that is from an infrastructure standpoint. Like just earlier today, and now we're talking about it.
It's strange because you have to pay the tolls each time too, which is customary for most bridges.
Are all of those bridges tolls?
Yeah,
Are
they're
they?
all tolls. It's
Oh my
expensive.
gosh.
Like my mom and dad used to, when they were working in San Francisco, would have to commute every day across that bridge. And last time I went, it was up to $6. It could probably be higher now. But it's just kind of expensive that you had to do this commute every day on that bridge. So I'm wondering, like, I guess this is how the city makes money. Like, mostly through tolls for the upkeeps of the bridges and stuff. But for Zootopia...
Well, I'm sure she had to pay to get on the train.
Yeah. But for Zootopia, I wouldn't be surprised if they... It's probably within driving distance, Bunny Burrows. But I won't be surprised if it was quite a ways away. But it's near enough that they do have a... It seems like it could be a daily train.
Well, I don't know. It must make multiple stops, maybe, because I don't imagine that many people are coming to and from Bunnyborough, this tiny little rabbit. Although, a bunch of animals got off the train in the last minute. So I wonder what business they had, all those lemmings, in Bunnyborough.
Lemming Brothers.
Yeah, that is an interesting question right there.
So since, I guess it didn't make into the final cut, I could talk about some of the pictures I see in the concept book for Savannah Square. So the Palm Hotel and Casino actually had a bigger role in the original version of the movie, or one of the, because there's been many different versions of this movie. But there's actually a interesting diagram of the inside of the Palm Hotel Casino. It has a giant tree inside, and they show what the lobby looks like, and it actually shows Judy hanging off the balcony. It looks like a large goat is trying to knock her off the balcony, and Nick is scrambling over the sides and holding her by her ears.
Wouldn't that have been an interesting scene?
I'm surprised because I was surprised how much detail they put into the biomes, because as we will see for the different parts of the movie, they actually don't play as big a role as they would come off, but it seems like they were so well designed because they had bigger roles in early versions of the scripts. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, how Zootopia is kind of set up to have these different biomes that represent different cultures kind of reminds me of when I visited Epcot. And half of Epcot had representation for 12 different parts of the world.
Well, Epcot was originally designed to be like a planned community, like a city.
Yeah, and then the other half is kind of like a World's Fair, a permanent World's Fair.
Yeah, that's kind of the best way to describe it.
So looking at this reminded me of the Morocco section of Epcot. And the Morocco section of Epcot was actually designed by the Moroccan king. He actually sent his own personal royal architects to come and design the Morocco Square for Disney. So I'm wondering if that's kind of similar to how Zootopia was kind of planned out. Maybe they had like representatives design different sections to make them look specifically catered to that culture for these different animals.
You know, my headcanon is forming, and I think it definitely was like a very planned city, and it probably all got built at around the same time rather than slowly.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're talking about these infrastructure things like how the water for the Rainforest District is melted snow from the Arctic District, and how you would need both of those to be in place in order for that to work simultaneously.
Yeah, especially the walls, because without those walls that pump out the snow or pump in the heat, those biomes couldn't even exist to begin with. So yeah, it had to be planned.
Man, I just love this city. It's such a neat design. It's got that cool kind of arcology type feel to it.
Well, that means they had the technology beforehand. They were advanced enough to do these things that we can even do as humans now, before they even built the city. And the city looks like it's been around for a while, because she was talking about, oh, Zootopia is a place where anyone can be anything. So at least it's been around since she was a kid.
What if it was also like a thing in their equivalent of the 1700s or something, and it's just that old, and like it was really low tech before, and they had to make do without that technology somehow?
I'm wondering if there's an equivalent in the modern Hong Kong, maybe.
Hong Kong's cool. I have a friend from Hong Kong.
Well, I think that wraps it up. I think we talked enough, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. I just really, you know, this was a great scene to introduce the city. It's got this awesome, badass look being on an island in a lake like Tenochtitlan, which was the coolest ancient city before they drained the lake and built Mexico City on top of it. It's
funny because I was just watching a documentary on the Aztecs, and they were actually just talking about how it's a city on a lake, and the construction is just so wonderful. And it's funny because I was just playing as the Aztecs in Civilization 6, and
get that still.
I needed to build that specific structure, the center of the Aztec city. I couldn't build it unless my city was by a lake. So it's like just, I love these little touches and stuff. So it's kind of cool how Zootopia kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's just about it for this minute then.
Well, if you like us, you can follow us on Twitter at Zootopia Minute, and you can email us. We love to hear some emails from you. We'll love to read them on the show. So make sure you email us with your fan fiction, fan art, whatever, headcanons at ZootopiaMinute@gmail.com.
Yes, indeed. Thank you once again for putting up with my squeaky voice. I am still feeling a little bit sick. But yeah, all right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.